Hare Krishna, I'm very happy to be with you. I feel related to you all spiritually and materially. Spiritually, Prabhupada was a Bengali. My Guru Maharaj was a Bengali. Bhakti Charamaj. And I have two adoption children from two Bengalis. A boy and a girl. They are grown up now. So spiritual and materially, I'm always between the Bengalis.
Hangi boy?
No, not so far. But I would like to speak about essential teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. But when we speak about spiritual matters, we need empowerment. One who thinks that he knows Bhagavad Gita doesn't know anything. That's the reality. The result of knowing about Bhagavad Gita is humility. It's not a scholarly treatise. It is a very practical book on how to make spiritual advancement. But to understand Bhagavad Gita, we need a proper mood. Krishna says to Arjuna, you can understand Bhagavad Gita because you are my friend. You are anaga, you are sinless. And you are my devotee. That spiritual knowledge is confidential knowledge. It's knowledge for those who want to get out of the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. So Krishna, he made an arrangement that this transcendental knowledge comes down to a chain of disciplic succession, a chain of spiritual masters coming from Krishna. And we are representing today the Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, coming from Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna gave the knowledge to Brahma. Brahma gave it to Narada. Narada is a spiritual master of Vyasadeva. So it came down to Gadali. And we have twice Krishna in our Sampradaya, in the beginning, and a few years, 100 years ago, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. So we are very fortunate, but we need empowerment to speak on spiritual subject matters. Actually, when we spiritual advanced understand that nothing happens without the sanction of the Lord. Therefore, a devotee prays always for empowerment, whatever he's going to do. He knows that everything depends on Krishna in the heart, who controls material nature as Paramatma. Good. So we will say our prayers, and those who know the prayers can pray with me. Om Ajnana Tirunandasya Chansala Shakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chittanya Manobishtam Staptam Yena Bhutalim Swayam Rupagadamyam Dadati Svapadantyakam Vandeham Shiyuda Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sha Shri Upam Sagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjanasaitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalita Shivishakam Vitam Jaka He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Chirapati Gokleshta Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanashri Vrishabhana Sita Devi Pranamamane Priye Avanka Kaltavishya Kripas Nivesha Patinabhavanibhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Bhaskacharya Desatane Srila Prabhupada Ki. So I will speak on essential teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, and that in the last part of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna makes a clear difference between those who are endeavoring to make spiritual advancement, called devotees, and those who are in the materialistic way of life, that in Lord Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna, because Lord Krishna before had spoken about a stita prajna, one who is fixed in a spiritual practice. And he asks, such stita prajna, what are his symptoms? How does he walk? How does he sit? How does he speak? How does he behave? So he's asking about the internal and the external aspect of a devotee. And Krishna answered, Prajati yata kaman sarvam parta manogatan. Krishna says, a devotee has given up all desires for sense gratification because they are based on mental concoction, an invention of the mind. What happens if we are in the mind when we are absorbed in sense gratification? That who is benefiting of the sense gratification? The body, not the soul. And by that we become attracted to that what gives pleasure to the senses. And we don't now want that what gives us pain. We don't want that. That person who gives us only pain is our enemy. And the one who gives us a lot of sense gratification, that's our friend. So that creates in the mind attachment and aversion. Attachment and aversion. Attachment for what gives pleasure to the body. Aversion to what gives pain to the body. By that, the mind concentrates constantly on this attachment and aversion. It agitates the mind. That Taya Parita Sheta, Sham Krishna said before. It disturbs the mind. You are never peaceful. Always dwelling on this duality. And that's the life of most materialistic people. They are after what gives pleasure in life, pleasure for the body. But it never gives us real satisfaction. We wait some people coming in. It is very important in the matter of understanding transcendental knowledge that we are attentive. If we are not attentive, you will not get anything. It is very important. Concentration of the mind. And that's the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. A non-devotee, someone happens externally and his senses go always directly astray, away. I've noticed many times that you give a lecture and a little child comes, like 2 years old, and walks in, and all the eyes go there, and you can forget your lecture. It's finished. But yes, attachment and aversion. And then Krishna explains that a stita prajna have given up this desire for sense gratification, and he becomes equal in happiness and distress, success or failure, pain or so-called happiness of the senses. He becomes equal to that. And he says, he controls the senses, he controls his mind. If there comes opportunities for sense gratification, he's going to withdraw his senses within, like a kurma, a tortoise withdraws his limbs within the cell, in the shell. But a materialist is different, Krishna says. Dayati visyapam samsangastes bhajayate sangha sanyate kama kama koda vijayate. A materialist, he meditates. He's a super meditator, but outside, not inside. He meditates on things for sense gratification that we see, and this is well known. So many advertisements that we become attracted, and then we become curious. We want to enjoy. Then the expectation of enjoyment comes up, which is lust. And then the enjoyment takes place, but it's not what we are expecting. And then, because it's a concoction of the mind. And then what happens next? One becomes angry, frustrated. And when one becomes angry, one cannot understand anything anymore. And intelligence is lost. You have ever tried to explain something to someone who is really angry? Good luck, it will not happen. That's what Krishna says. If bewildered, his memory goes away. So this makes us more and more solidly situated in the concept that I'm the body. And you cannot understand anything from spiritual life. It's gone. So therefore Krishna says, we must follow the principles of freedom. When I came to the Krishna conscious movement, my family and my former friends said, poor guy, he cannot drink anything anymore. He cannot eat meat anymore. No sex. That's our life. This is a strange guy that he's giving up all these things. These are regulative principles. Krishna says they are the regulative principles of freedom. Freedom. What is this freedom? Krishna explains further what this freedom is, quite in detail, that we are not a mind. The mind is an instrument we use. But in the case of materialists, who are not following these principles, their mind is full of lust. And the mind controls them. They are controlled by the mind. The mind misuses the intelligence, abuses the intelligence for sense gratification. And you become more and more entangled. So that is conditioned life. And then Krishna starts to explain the external difference between a devotee and a conditioned soul, and the internal difference between a conditioned soul and a devotee. First, we will look at the external that is here. Okay. Is text 69. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yanisa Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Shirati Samyani. Yasyam Shirati Bhutani Shanisha Pashato Muni. For this night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the mind of awakening for all beings is the night for the introspective sage. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. There are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake of the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic man. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep of self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy, sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reactions. In the beginning of the 90s, I was in Ghent in Flanders. And we were in a Namhata center, small center, and I was there with another brahmachari. And in the ashram, we were in the middle of the city. That's a small city of Ghent in Flanders in Belgium. And we were getting up a little before 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was summer, and we pushed out, opened the window, and at the other side there was a nightclub. So we opened the window, and at the other side they opened the door. They opened the door, and first a lot of smoke came out, and then some people came out the door of the nightclub, but they were not walking really straight. They were going to their home, if they reached there, to sleep. We were getting up. So our day was beginning. Our day was for them night. So that there are external differences. Externally, a devotee is very clean. He gets up in the morning, he gets a shower. He puts on tilak, and fresh clothes, fresh washed every day. And he goes to the temple. He has Mangal Arti before the deities. We have beautiful deities here. And then we chant the holy name. We hear the scriptures. We are cooking for the deities. We are offering food. Then a devotee takes only breakfast as food. He takes only Krishna Prasad. If there's no Krishna Prasad, the devotee fasts. This is his lifestyle. And he hears every day Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. He wants to love Krishna, and therefore he wants to hear about Krishna, and he wants to hear Krishna's words, always absorbed in spiritual knowledge. So that's the lifestyle of a devotee. A non-devotee, is not clean, usually. They get up, and what do? That if they are pious, they are taking a shower. Mostly not in the West. Prabhupada noticed that when he came in New York, that some of the devotees were living in apartments and there was no bathroom. I was thinking, they went to another friend's apartment to take a shower. It's immense, yeah. So externally, there are differences. Prabhupada speaks about also the difference in intelligence. So one is spiritually intelligent, the other is materially intelligent. That is a different kind of IQ. That you can have a very material high IQ, but material spiritually zero. When I did my PhD at the University of Wales, I did a master's in Indian religion and then a PhD in especially in our own tradition. But I met many scholars and they could quote from Bhagavad Gita, give philosophical lectures and so on. But none of them could understand that they are not a body. Material IQ still very high, but spiritually zero. Because spiritual knowledge, you can only start to receive when you follow first the lifestyle of a devotee. You must be clean, and one must be humble. Prabhupada says in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita that one should at least accept theoretically that Krishna is God. And then by reading Bhagavad Gita, your faith will grow. If we have association of devotees. So transcendental knowledge is different. It's a different IQ. How do you get the spiritual understanding, the spiritual IQ, how to get it? Who gives spiritual knowledge? That spiritual master gives spiritual knowledge, but that is jnana. Spiritual IQ rather refers to vijnana. What's the difference between jnana and vijnana? Jnana is theoretical knowledge. Vijnana is the the realization, internal realization of this knowledge. And that's very important. When we leave the body, all the jnana is gone, but the vijnana you take with you. That's important. The realization, your advancement. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, a little advancement on its path will you protect you against the greatest danger. And he says there is no loss or diminution. You have developed 2% Krishna consciousness in this life, next life you start with 2%. And never loss, no diminution. And it protects you against the greatest danger. What's the greatest danger? Is to go down again to animal life. That's abominable. That those in the mode of ignorance are preparing for that. That we see in this society today, everyone, all the educational system is preparing everyone to go to hell as quick as possible. That there's no education on how to behave. That you can become a professor at a university and you can be a drunkard, a woman hunter. It doesn't matter. What good can come from that? Nothing auspicious. It's not possible. To cultivate spiritual IQ, first we must behave properly. Give up sinful activities. Give up eating meat and so on. Otherwise, you remain under this control of this duality. You come under control of your attachment and aversion. And you create more attachment and aversion. And attachment and aversion is a cause of our suffering. We are suffering because we are attached to something. We are attached, we have expectations for sense gratification, we have frustrations, we become unhappy. But all these expectations are a dream. The dream that we are the body, but we are not the body. Soon it's over, you leave the body. That we dream at night and then we get up and we think, no, this is my world of reality. But it's also a dream. We are dreaming during the day that we are the body. But we are a spirit, soul, a part and parcel of Krishna. And our spiritual life is our real life, our eternal life. The material life is just temporary. But how do we get transcendental knowledge, transcendental IQ? Krishna explained in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satayuknam vacham pidvogam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayantite. If you serve me with a little love, Krishna says, dadami, I'm going to give you something. Buddhi yoga, he says. Transcendental IQ, transcendental intelligence is given. That. But what's the condition? Pritipurvakam, a little love. That we don't have a little love for Krishna. We don't know what love is. We take love as lust, something between man and woman. That's not love. That's material affection for the body. That's all. Real love is on another platform. Real love is for Krishna. That if we want to love Krishna, that without asking something in return. That's if we pray to Krishna and we ask Krishna to help us with all our problems in this life, we are just like a merchant that Krishna is our order supplier. But no, a devotee knows all the suffering that I'm undergoing, that's my fault. They are the reactions of my past misdeeds. I'm the architect of my happiness and distress in this time. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I have nothing to do with it. I'm not the cause of your suffering. So this has to be understood. If we serve Krishna with a little love, then tesham evana kampratam amma jnana jamtamam nasa jamatma vavastu jnana tipena vashvata. Krishna comes into our heart and burns away all the impurities in our heart, all this attachment and aversion, all these material desires are going. As long as we have the slightest attachment and aversion in this world, we stay here. So we must purify us. So yes, this is about transcendental knowledge and about behavior externally, but the next verse, and the last verse we will read, Krishna explains the internal difference between a devotee and people in this world. And that's more difficult to understand because it's more subtle, but it's most important. So this verse says, Apoyamanam achala pratistam samudranapa pavishanti advat. Tatvat kamayam pavishanti sarve sasantim apnoti nakami kami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enters like river into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not a man who strives to satisfy such desires. The Krishna speaks about desires that come up into the mind. So many desires come up into our mind, and a devotee is not disturbed by them. Some phone is going. Maybe you can put it off, maybe. Okay. So if desires come into our mind, then a devotee is not disturbed by it. Devotee, what does it mean? Who are we? Not the body, the soul. That's who we are. So we are the conscience in this body. It means we are not the mind. There's a big difference between a non-devotee and a devotee. A devotee knows it's not the mind. It's not the thinking, feeling, and willing. The soul has in its original condition has its own thinking, feeling, and willing, Prabhupada says. And so a devotee, he knows I'm not the mind. And a non-devotee, he thinks, my feelings, my emotions, that's who I am. A big difference. Bhagavad Gita is about, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, spiritual life starts with controlling the mind. If the mind is not controlled, it's your greatest enemy. If the mind is controlled, it's your friend. Two important aspects. So those who are identifying with the mind are living with a great enemy and are constantly in distress. But the devotee knows I'm not the mind. He becomes the observer of the mind. But then desires pop up into the mind. What is the cause of the desire? Where is the desire coming from? Please? Any idea?
Meditation. What we meditate on, then we get desire.
Yeah, that's one cultivation of desire that we meditate on. Other ways, I will help you. Desires can come from the soul. Desires can come from pop up in the mind, put there by the super soul. Why does the super soul put desires in our mind? Krishna in the heart puts desires in our mind. Because in our previous lives, we had so many material desires. What happens with a material desire if you try to fulfill it? What happens? Dusprananalinacha. Yeah? What happens? Attachment and so comes, yes. But the desire is never fulfilled. Never fulfilled. They did a survey of billionaires. They had all 1 billion. And they asked, what do you want? And they gave all the same answer. I want 2 billion. Never satisfied. You will never be satisfied. Because it doesn't satisfy the soul. And you want also more and more and more and more. It's never satisfied. But Krishna is kind and he knows we had these desires in our previous life. When you go from one body to another, then the super soul takes the subtle body to this next destination. And in that subtle body, there is a subconscious part. That's called samskaras. And all these material desires, unfulfilled from previous life, they are still there in the form of impressions. That's the subconsciousness. And Krishna is in our heart, he knows that. And he picks up desires from there and he puts that in our consciousness. It plops up into the mind. So there are now two reactions. The devotee and the non-devotee. The non-devotee identifies with the mind. So if the desire comes up, he thinks that's my desire. He grabs it. It's my desire. And he thinks this time it will work. And he becomes enthusiastic to run after it again. And what's the result? Dayate vishyapum samsangastes pachayate sangha sanyate kamakam vichayate. He meditates on it, he develops lust, and then again the same thing, expectations, but when it happens, the expectations are not meeting, and then frustration again, the same thing as in previous life. It's impossible to satisfy material desires. But the devotee, he looks at the mind and he sees that desire pops up and he observes it. He thinks, what kind of desire is this? Oh, he said, that's a material desire. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 5:22. Isam spasyabhra dukayonaya evater dyant van de kantianati ramate Buddha. If I fulfill this desire, then Krishna says, one who wants to enjoy in this world, he must pay with suffering. Reaction will be suffering. And the devotee sees that, oh, there's a material desire. If I fulfill that, I'm going to suffer. I don't want it. And the desire disappears forever. But the conditioned soul becomes entangled. And there's an internal difference between a non-devotee and a devotee. And it's very important to understand. If we want to become out of our suffering, we must stop identifying with the mind. Control the mind. And Krishna speaks in many verses about how to help to control the mind. Krishna says in, I think it's 6:17, one should not eat too much, not too less. That if you eat too much, the mind becomes uncontrolled. And you go into ignorance, more sleeping. If you don't eat enough, you don't sleep at night. You don't get deep sleep. The mind is not rested properly. It becomes disturbed. You need balance. You need a peaceful mind. If you are peaceful, then you can be the observer of the mind. If you are always running after the mind, and in the anxiety was this person said that and did this, and I hate this person because he did that, or I want to enjoy this, and I have this problem on my mortgage, I can't pay it, and so anxiety from one thing to another. But the soul has nothing to do with it. Soon we are out of the body. We have got so many problems in life, but these problems are all very temporary. And you can see in my own life, if I go 50 years back, I was 15 years old. I was living in a village but now if I'm going back there 50 years later, all the people that I knew, they are not there anymore. All dead practically. All the buildings changed, the culture changed, the people changed, everything changed. It's all gone. That's in this life. It's gone. The whole thing. But 50 years ago, all the problems were very serious. But now, what with these problems, it's all gone. So that's material life. That spiritual life means I control my mind. But then one must ask, it's not just controlling the mind, and the purpose of life is not just to control the mind, but to go a step further. To make our spiritual connection with Krishna, we must get out of this duality of attachment and aversion. That's otherwise, if we chant the holy names, then the mind wants to do something else on the bodily platform. And you can chant, but in your mind you are making your shopping list or whatever. That's not going to help. You must fix your attention to Krishna. And all this attachment and aversion are making the mind restless, and we cannot fix on Krishna. Too disturbed. Because Krishna explains the goal of yoga in the 6th chapter. So it says that Chidatmana Prasantasma Paramatma Samaita Chitta Atmana. So Atma is here the mind. Chitta means conquer. One who has conquered the mind, brings it under control. It becomes prasantasya. It becomes peaceful. And when one becomes peaceful in heart, Paramatma Samaita, one reaches Krishna in the heart. That one gets contact with Krishna. It's just a curtain caused by these material desires, and we are running after it like mad. That these material desires can come from previous life, can come from this life, can even come from our environment. If we are in an environment where they do sinful activities, that these sinful desires come into our mind. So it's the devotee lives always sattvic, always clean, cleanliness. So important that. So these are the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, that the difference between the devotees and the non-devotees. The non-devotees are identifying with the mind and are insane. That Prabhupada, when he was in Calcutta, and once he had to go to the court in Calcutta for a little thing for his business, but at the same time he had to wait, and there was another court case going on, a murder case, and that was a doctor. A doctor had one day asked his assistant to come, and he chloroformed him and killed him, put his body in pieces, because he was thinking his assistant had an affair with his wife. And they put the boxes outside, but anyway, the police found out, they arrested him. And the judge was asking that to a psychiatrist, in your opinion, is this man insane, or is he responsible for his acts? And the man replied, he said, in my opinion, everyone in this world is more or less sane, insane, more or less insane, crazy. And that's the craziness. We identify with the mind and with these material desires. That's the craziness. And he says, more or less everyone, only the pure devotees of Krishna, they are free from the dictations of the mind. And they are not following the dictation of the mind. We are not a servant of the mind, we are the servant of Krishna. And we must follow the dictations of Krishna, or Krishna in the heart. So Prabhupada said, real yogi is following the dictation of Krishna within the heart. If you have a pure heart, you are always in contact with Krishna. That Srila Prabhupada, he was in New York, 26th 2nd Avenue in the beginning, and they had a Sunday feast. And one of his servants spoke with guests at the Sunday feast, and he said, my spiritual master has written these books on inspiration of Krishna within the heart. And Prabhupada stopped him, he heard it, and he said, no. And Krishna has personally dictated me these commentaries. They are not my commentaries. They are Krishna's commentaries. Shows how he was very pure and was always in direct contact with Krishna. In 1977, at a certain moment, Prabhupada was on the verge of leaving his body. He didn't eat anything and drink for many days.
6 months.
6 months. And then the devotees went to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, we want you to stay. Don't leave us behind. That please stay. Pray to Krishna to let you stay. And Prabhupada said, I will consult with Krishna. And for 5 minutes he had his eyes closed and he was meditating. And after that he said that Krishna lives his up to me. That was his answer. And he asked for some juice and he started to drink again something. But anyway, that's many instances where he had direct contact with Krishna. He had always direct contact with Krishna, but rare instances we can perceive it. Srila Prabhupada was pure from in the beginning. It's an eternal associate of Krishna. This is in the book of Lochan Das Thakur, in Chaitanya Mangal. There it's mentioned that Lord Chaitanya will send someone who will spread the holy name, who will be Senapati Bhakta is like a
Commander-in-Chief.
Commander-in-Chief, yeah. And he will spread the holy name all over the world. And that's there 500 years ago. So that's Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, Vajrapodra asked Prabhupada, what was the earliest time you remember that you became Krishna conscious? Interesting question. Prabhupada replied, I cannot remember any moment in my life that I was not Krishna conscious. So that's very special. So Prabhupada sometimes used to read his books, and he said to his servant, who reads his own books? No one. It shows these are not my books, these are Krishna's books. So not only the verses are from Krishna, the commentaries are also from Krishna. And therefore, Prabhupada's books are so important. They are our perfect guide. So if you read every day these books, we will come out of the illusion and become attached to Krishna. And that's the cause of all auspiciousness. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the
Good
comment.
name.
Amazing class. You mentioned Gyan and Vigyan. And you said Vigyan, it transcends to the next life. How does one know that they're gaining Vigyan and not Gyan? Like, how do you know Vigyan or not?
Yeah, that the entire list of spiritual qualities in the Bhagavad Gita, that how do you know that I give you an indication that Krishna about Vishyan says the utmost quality, spiritual quality is humility. If you become humble. I always remember my teacher, Bhujan Prabhu, who taught me the Bhagavatam, and someone asked Bhujan Prabhu, are you self-realized? He said, yes, I realized I'm a complete nonsense.
Complete nonsense.
Nonsense, yeah. So that's the realization we need.
I'm a fool.
When we come to that realization, you have gained a lot of spiritual knowledge, nearly ready to go back to Godhead. But we cannot imitate that. Not thinking I'm the most fallen. That will not help. And a devotee said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I'm the most fallen. Prabhupada replied, you are not the most of anything. It's just our imagination. No, it must be genuine. That another devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I'm the most fallen. Prabhupada said, yes, what are you going to do about it? So if we are planning to do about it, do something about it. That's the beginning of gaining this transcendental knowledge. I can give you an example from my own person. 35 years ago, if a devotee would come to me and he would say something naughty against me, I would be disturbed sometimes for weeks, years sometimes. Now we are 35 years later. If someone says to me something naughty, I'm still disturbed for 5 seconds, and I let it go. that this attachment and aversion is gone. And that's a good sign. Mostly symptoms that I give you a few symptoms of to test whether you have this vijnana. First, the first is that you get taste for spiritual activities. Taste. Taste means taste for chanting, taste for hearing about Krishna, taste for worshipping the deity, taste for serving Krishna in so many ways. Taste is a very important indicator that taste. And another indicator is you become more and more happy. Another indicator is we are not becoming disturbed by happiness and distress. That and we can be disturbed for a few moments, but then we go on with our service. Arjuna lost Abhimanyu in the fight, and he was disturbed, but he didn't give up his service. The next day he was fighting with much more intensity in his service. So that these are symptoms. Also, these symptoms are explained in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu. This is a book written by Prabhupada. It's a summary presentation of the science of devotional service, the practice, written by Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. And this practice of devotional service is very important, that we understand how to practice it. Otherwise, we cannot make spiritual advancement. In that book, chapter 18, the symptoms of one situated in bhava is described, or nearly love of God. And there are 9 symptoms, and it starts with that a devotee does not waste time. Every moment he wants to spend in devotional service. Another symptom is he becomes attached to the chanting of the holy name because he gets spiritual pleasure from it. That's another symptom. Another symptom is he becomes detached from all material activities. And so on. But of course, Bhagavad Gita gives also many symptoms. What you need to realize in the beginning is explained in 13:8-12. 13:8-12. So these are all the qualities of one who has realization. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the object of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of evil, of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, the philosophical search for the absolute truth, all these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may is ignorance. So Prabhupada writes, this is the process of getting this vijnana, of getting real knowledge. And he says these are 21 qualities mentioned here. The most important is devotion. If one and accepting a spiritual master, the spiritual master instructs one in devotional service, and then all the other qualities they will develop as a side effect. That to get this spiritual IQ means to become attached to Krishna. And that's realization. When you are attached to Krishna, a side effect is you become detached from this. and that is the system. Much more to say about that, but this is the essence. Okay. Thank you. Good. Thank you very much. Yeah, one more last question.
But ask you about this intensifying desire to serve Krishna or to go to Krishna or to hear about Krishna. Where this come from?
Sangha.
But, you want to answer?
No, but the devotee association.
Yeah, devotee association.
Yeah.
This is this utsaha, to become enthusiastic. That you associate with those who are enthusiastic, and you will become affected. That is a nice. That's the infection we all want. But yes, it comes from association of devotees. But then, when you practice it nicely and you are enthusiastic, you get that enthusiasm from the devotees, you practice it nicely, then you start to feel more happy. And by that, you become more and more enthusiastic. So, but this is a process without end. Even after liberation, if you get on the spiritual platform, still it goes further. That Krishna, the gopis dress very nicely to attract Krishna. And Krishna becomes attracted to the gopis, and therefore he becomes more beautiful. And then the gopis become more attracted to him. And yeah, it's a competition without end. Good.
So association.
Also-
Someone who is enthusiastic.
Yeah, with the spiritual advanced. Without association of the spiritual advanced, we cannot make spiritual advancement. And therefore we need sadhu sangha, association with devotees.
And then there is definition, what is association? I remember Prabhupada I was hearing, what is association?
Yeah, association is described by Rupa Goswami in the 4th verse, that giving gifts to devotees, receiving gifts, can be in many forms. Offering prasadam to devotees, receiving prasadam, and then revealing one's mind in confidence to a devotee who is on the same platform. And the others hears and there's reciprocation, that we discuss the issues that we have. How can we overcome this obstacle and that obstacle? And the devotees explain what their realization is, and you learn from that. Therefore, the discussions of the Bhagavatam in the morning and in the evening, these answers and questions of Bhagavad Gita, very important, because by that exchange we learn. There's a transfer of experience that, and it's so beautiful. Hare Krishna. Good. Thank you very much.